might also, when removed, be used to drink the lemonade from. Within the pail were 3 slices of turkey, 2 slices of cold tongue, some lobster salad, 4 slices of bread and butter, a small custard pie, an orange, and 9 large strawberries, and some nuts and raisins. Singularly enough, the nuts in this dinner pail grew already cracked, so that Dorothy had no trouble in picking out their meats to eat. She spread the feast upon the rock beside her and began her dinner, first offering some of it to Tik-Tok, who declined because, as he said, he was merely a machine. Afterwards, she offered to share with Billina, but the hen murmured something about dead things and said she preferred her bugs and ants. "Do the lunchbox trees and the dinner pail trees belong to the Wheelers?" the child asked Tik-Tok while engaged in eating her meal. "Of course not," he answered. "They belong to the royal family of Ev. Only, of course, there is no royal family just now because King Evildo jumped into the sea and his wife and 10 children have been transformed by the Nome King. So there is no one to rule the land of Ev that I can think of. Perhaps it is for this reason that the Wheelers claim the trees for their own and pick the luncheons and dinners to eat themselves. But they belong to the king, and you'll find the royal stamp upon the bottom of every dinner pail." Dorothy turned the pail over and at once discovered the royal mark upon it, as Tik-Tok had said. "Are the Wheelers the only folks living in the land of Ev?" inquired the girl. "No, they only inhabit a small portion of it just back of the woods," replied the machine, "but they have always been mischievous and impertinent, and my old master, King Evildo, used to carry a whip with him when he walked out, to keep the creatures in order. When I was first made, the Wheelers tried to run over me and butt me with their heads, but they soon found I was built of too solid a material for them to injure." "You seem very durable," said Dorothy. "Who made you?" "The firm of Smith and Tinker in the town of Evna, where the royal palace stands," answered Tik-Tok. "Did they make many of you?" asked the child. "No, I am the only automatic mechanical man that ever completed," he replied. "They were very wonderful inventors, were my makers, and quite artistic in all they did." "I am sure of that," said Dorothy. "Do they live in the town of Evna now?" "They are both gone," replied the machine. "Mr. Smith was an artist as well as an inventor, and he painted a picture of a river which was so natural that, as he was reaching across it to paint some flowers on the opposite bank, he fell into the water and was drowned." "Oh, I'm sorry for that!" exclaimed the little girl. "Mr. Tinker," continued Tik-Tok, "made a ladder so tall that he could rest the end of it against the moon, while he stood on the highest rung and picked the little stars to set in the points of the king's crown. But when he got to the moon, Mr. Tinker found it such a lovely place that he decided to live there. So he pulled up the ladder after him, and we have never seen him since." "He must have been a great loss to this country," said Dorothy, who was by this time eating her custard pie. "He was," acknowledged Tik-Tok. "Also, he is a great loss to me, for if I could get out of order, I do not know of any one able to repair me. Because I am so complicated, you have no idea how full of machinery I am." "I can imagine it," said Dorothy readily. "And now," continued the machine, "I must stop talking and begin thinking again of a way to escape from this rock." So he turned halfway around in order to think without being disturbed. "The best thinker I ever knew," said Dorothy to the yellow hen, "was a scarecrow." "Nonsense!" snapped Billina. "It is true," declared Dorothy. "I met him in the land of Oz, and he traveled with me to the city of the great Wizard of Oz, so as to get some brains, for his head was only stuffed with straw. But it seemed to me that he thought just as well before he got his brains as he did afterward." "Do you expect me to believe all that rubbish about the land of Oz?" inquired Billina, who seemed a little cross, perhaps because bugs were scarce. "What rubbish?" asked the child, who was now finishing her nuts and raisins. "Why, your impossible stories about animals that can talk, and a Tin Woodman who is alive, and a Scarecrow who can think." "They are all there," said Dorothy, "for I have seen them." "I don't believe it," cried the hen, with a toss of her head. "That's 'cause you're so ignorant," replied the girl, who was a little offended at her friend Billina's speech. "In the land of Oz," remarked Tik-Tok, turning toward them, "anything is possible, for it is a wonderful fairy country." "There, Billina, what did I say?" cried Dorothy, and then she turned to the machine and asked in an eager tone, "Do you know the land of Oz, Tik-Tok?" "No, but I have heard about it," said the Copper Man, "for it is only separated from this land of Ev by a broad desert." Dorothy clapped her hands together delightedly. "I'm glad of that," she exclaimed. "It makes me quite happy to be so near my old friends. The Scarecrow I told you of, Billina, is the king of the land of Oz." "Pardon me, he is not the king now," said Tik-Tok. "He was when I left there," declared Dorothy. "I know," said Tik-Tok, "but there was a revolution in the land of Oz, and the Scarecrow was deposed by a soldier woman named General Ginger. And then Ginger was deposed by a little girl named Ozma, who was the rightful heir to the throne and now rules the land under the title of Ozma of Oz." "That is news to me," said Dorothy thoughtfully, "but I suppose lots of things have happened since I left the land of Oz. I wonder what has become of the Scarecrow, and of the Tin Woodman, and the Cowardly Lion, and I wonder who this girl Ozma is, for I have never heard of her before." But Tik-Tok did not reply to this. He had turned around again to resume his thinking. Dorothy packed the rest of the food back into the pail, so as not to be wasteful of good things, and the yellow hen forgot her dignity far enough to pick up all the scattered crumbs, which she ate rather greedily, although she had so lately pretended to despise the things that Dorothy preferred as food. By this time Tik-Tok approached them with his stiff bow. "Be kind enough to follow me," he said, "and I will lead you away from here to the town of Evna, where you will be more comfortable, and also I will protect you from the Wheelers." "All right," answered Dorothy promptly. "I'm ready." The Heads of Lang White-Ear. They walked slowly down the path between the rocks, Tik-Tok going first, Dorothy following him, and the yellow hen trotting along last of all. At the foot of the path, the Copper Man leaned down and tossed aside with ease the rocks that cumbered the way. Then he turned to Dorothy and said, "Let me carry your dinner pail." She placed it in his right hand at once, and the copper fingers closed firmly over the stout handle. Then the little procession marched out upon the level sands. As soon as the three Wheelers who were guarding the mount saw them, they began to shout their wild cries and rode swiftly toward the little group, as if to capture them or bar their way. But when the foremost had approached near enough, Tik-Tok swung the tin dinner pail and struck the Wheeler a sharp blow over its head with the queer weapon. Perhaps it did not hurt very much, but it made a great noise, and the Wheeler uttered a howl and tumbled over upon its side. The next minute it scrambled to its wheels and rolled away as fast as it could go, screeching with fear at the same time. "I told you they were harmless," began Tik-Tok, but before he could say more, another Wheeler was upon them. Crack! Went the dinner pail against its head, knocking its straw hat a dozen feet away, and that was enough for this Wheeler also. It rolled away after the first one, and the third did not wait to be pounded with the pail, but joined its fellows as quickly as its wheels would whirl. The yellow hen gave a cackle of delight, and flying to a perch upon Tik-Tok's shoulder, she said, "Bravely done, my copper friend, and wisely thought of, too. Now we are free from those ugly creatures." But just then a large band of Wheelers rode from the forest, and relying upon their numbers to conquer, they advanced fiercely upon Tik-Tok. Dorothy grabbed Billina in her arms and held her tight, and the machine embraced the form of the little girl with his left arm, the better to protect her. Then the Wheelers were upon them. Rattly, bang, bang, went the dinner pail in every direction, and it made so much clatter, bumping against the heads of the Wheelers, that they were much more frightened than hurt, and fled in a great panic. All, that is, except the leader. This wheeler had stumbled against another and fallen flat upon his back, and before he could get his wheels under him to rise again, Tik-Tok had fastened his copper fingers into the neck of the gorgeous jacket of his foe and held him fast. "Tell your people to go away," commanded the machine. The leader of the wheelers hesitated to give this order, so Tik-Tok shook him as a terrier dog does a rat, until the wheeler's teeth rattled together with a noise like hailstones on a window pane. Then, as soon as the creature could get its breath, it shouted to the others to roll away, which they immediately did. "Now," said Tik-Tok, "you shall come with us and tell me what I want to know." "You'll be sorry for treating me in this way," whined the wheeler. "I'm a terribly fierce person." "As for that," answered Tik-Tok, "I am only a machine, and cannot feel sorrow or joy, no matter what happens. But you are wrong to think yourself terrible or fierce." "Why so?" asked the wheeler. "Because no one else thinks as you do. Your wheels make you helpless to injure anyone, for you have no fist and cannot scratch or even pull hair. Nor have you any feet to kick with. All you can do is to yell and shout, and that does not hurt anyone at all." The wheeler burst into a flood of tears, to Dorothy's great surprise. "Now I and my people are ruined forever," he sobbed, "for you have discovered our secret. Being so helpless, our only hope is to make people afraid of us, by pretending we are very fierce and terrible, and writing in the sand warnings to beware the wheelers. Until now we have frightened everyone, but since you have discovered our weakness, our enemies will fall upon us and make us very miserable and unhappy." "Oh no!" exclaimed Dorothy, who was sorry to see this beautifully dressed wheeler so miserable. "Tik-Tok will keep your secret, and so will Billina and I. Only you must promise not to try to frighten children any more, if they come near to you." "I won't, indeed I won't," promised the wheeler, ceasing to cry and becoming more cheerful. "I'm not really bad, you know, but we have to pretend to be terrible in order to prevent others from attacking us." "That is not exactly true," said Tik-Tok, starting to walk toward the path through the forest, and still holding fast to his prisoner, who rolled slowly along beside him. "You and your people are full of mischief, and like to bother those who fear you, and you are often impudent and disagreeable too. But if you will try to cure those faults, I will not tell anyone how helpless you are." "I'll try, of course," replied the wheeler eagerly. "And thank you, Mr. Tik-Tok, for your kindness." "I am only a machine," said Tik-Tok. "I cannot be kind any more than I can be sorry or glad. I can only do what I am wound up to do." "Are you wound up to keep my secret?" asked the wheeler anxiously. "Yes, if you behave yourself. But tell me, who rules the land of Ev now?" asked the machine. "There is no ruler," was the answer, "because every member of the royal family is imprisoned by the Nome King. But the Princess Langwiter, who is a niece of our late King Evaldo, lives in a part of the royal palace and takes as much money out of the royal treasury as she can spend. The Princess Langwiter is not exactly a ruler, you see, because she doesn't rule, but she is the nearest approach to a ruler we have at present." "I do not remember her," said Tik-Tok. "What does she look like?" "That I cannot say," replied the wheeler, "although I have seen her 20 times, for the Princess Langwiter is a different person every time I see her, and the only way her subjects can recognize her at all is by the means of a beautiful ruby key which she always wears on a chain attached to her left wrist. When we see the key, we know we are beholding the princess." "That is strange," said Dorothy in astonishment. "Do you mean to say that so many different princesses are one and the same person?" "Not exactly," answered the wheeler. "There is, of course, but one princess, but she appears to us in many forms, which are all more or less beautiful." "She must be a witch!" exclaimed the girl. "I do not think so," declared the wheeler, "but there is some mystery connected with her, nevertheless. She is a very vain creature, and lives mostly in a room surrounded by mirrors, so that she can admire herself whichever way she looks." No one answered this speech, because they had just passed out of the forest, and their attention was fixed upon the scene before them. A beautiful vale in which were many fruit trees and green fields, with pretty farmhouses scattered here and there and abroad, smooth roads that led in every direction. In the center of this lovely vale, about a mile